points. I'm so delighted to welcome Jeanine onto the show today. She's an emotional abuse survival advocate, and she is really passionate about this topic, and is one of the reasons why I wanted her to come onto the show, so we can talk about the signs of narcissistic abuse. They can happen in different environments. It doesn't even matter. It could be in families, co-workers, intimate relationships, more specifically, which I believe is more the dangerous aspect. So I don't know if you just want to say a couple of short words just to introduce yourself, Jeanine. Thank you.
Of course, and thank you so much for inviting me on your channel. I feel very fervently to just get out the message.
Sure.
So thank you very much. So my name's Jeanine. I am from New York, Queens, hence the accent. New York accent. I am a survivor of emotional abuse. I'm about, you're always in recovery, basically, but I'm about a year out from my breakup, and
that's quite recent. Yeah.
Yes, but I have to tell you, I've been making such great strides, and I'm not, crying as much, and I feel, and again, I always say, this abuse, being in a trauma bond, it's so hard to deal with it alone.
Yeah.
So if people can, and can afford a therapist,
sure.
It's optimum. It really is very and detrimental, I feel, to your mental health. So
and even just you mentioning that, the trauma bond, I believe that is so like underestimated. Just the mere fact of that theory, the trauma bond. And it's very easy for the people that have not been through the abuse to just prejudge you. Oh, get over it. Oh, this, that. But they do not actually understand the connotations of what a trauma bond is. I mean, it's interchangeable, the different words you could say. It's a soul tie, religious leaders might say that, but it really is like prevalent. And I believe it's so crucial. And like you said, therapists, can't be understated to know the benefits of that, to heal and, come out.
Yeah, I'm a very rational person. And so, speaking to my therapist, she was like, it's trauma bonded, you're in this cognitive dissonance. And I'm like, but is this real? Is this real? I couldn't wrap my head around it. And so that's why it kind of took me quite some time to, you need a jackhammer to break those chains of the trauma bond, because you're held. It's like you're held hostage to.
It's your mental health at the end of the day. It's your mental health.
Yes. So
it's just as important as your physical health, because if your mind is not renewed, don't mean to sound cliche, but if it's not like there, you could be depressed, you can't do anything else. So it's very important. I like the fact that you're bringing awareness to this, and that's why I'm equally passionate about that too. I think in terms of the signs of narcissistic abuse, which we're going to discuss today, I think one of the themes I think we should explore is empathy. How does a narcissist show or not show empathy? I don't know if you want to elaborate on that.
Well, what is empathy?
Yeah.
So empathy is, putting yourself in the other person's shoes, hearing how they're feeling, or kind of feeling how they're feeling. So I feel these toxic people, or narcissists, if you want to call them, they are so disconnected from their own feelings that they can't even connect to anybody else, I feel. And so, there were instances where I had a bad day just at work, and I would want to, talk to him about it. And he would just stare at me like a deer in headlights, like, what are you talking about? Or then he would,
wow.
And I'm like, just a regular, really bad day at work. Or did you do anything to elicit this response? And I'm like, I'm having a bad day. So I just feel that they're just so disconnected with themselves. And this is why they are not able to really connect with people. on an emotional level, because they lack such insight to emotions. So that's why they seem very dismissive, very disconnected from people on an emotional level. And you actually, you see, their eyes, when you're having a bad day, I need you, just be there for me. You can see like something going on, like.
I can relate with that. I can relate with that. That's not peculiar, but yeah, I can relate with that, definitely. It's just so, like a lot of people don't know about this, but this is like real. And the fact that you said the point that they can't really connect with people on an emotional level, I think that even brings me on to one of the other signs to watch out for that people need to pay attention to. Like when you realize that the narcissist or person doesn't really have long-term friends, like most people, they should be able to count. You not saying that you should have like a million friends. You should be able to count your close friends on one hand. And if you can't even like, you're seeing patterns where they're kind of like loners. They don't really have long-term friends like that. It could be another sign. I don't know if there's anything you want to expand on that in terms of the friendship.
So, in my experience, my ex had 1,000,001 friends.
Yeah.
But they weren't close friends. I mean, he had.
There you go. Yeah.
He has a few very, very, very close friends. But he needs to be in the know. He needs to be around people. Why? Because validation, because, and stuff like that. So, but I do have to backtrack. So I had two different relationships with the same guy. So initially when I first met him, he was very empathetic. He was right there with me. He listened to me. He made me feel heard and loved.
Well, that's the mirroring stage, though, isn't it? That's where they're trying to get.
Love bombing stage. That's when they. Oh, the love bombing. Oh my God, that's just as bad as a trauma bond. It's sneaky. Oh my God, I was so angry at it. But the second relationship that I had with him, it went right to the devaluation, and that's where I saw a lot of the lack of empathy, and I noticed him interacting with his friends, and they weren't close friendships. He just needed to be out there. This one's here, this one invited me to a party, I have to go to a party. So I feel that they just need to be the loudest one in the room. They need to say their story. They're great storytellers, so people flock to them. So he has like his harem of friends all around, but how close they were to him, he's not capable of developing those meaningful relationships.
Authentic, long-term relationships. And even in my experience, I found that was something I even tried to help the person. When I identified, I was like, whoa, what's going on here? Like, because at the end of the day, like in life, no man's an island. You need people in different aspects of your life, whether it be at work. So people can add value to your life. You can also, it should be a pleasure for you to be able to add value to people's lives as well. So that aspect is very crucial, I believe. And identifying as a sign if your partner or friend, they're not really connecting to people generally, I think it's something to watch out for. Definitely. And also I think another one of the themes that I wanted us to discuss is the superiority and belittling, which you said you have a good experience of. So
I had great experiences.
So let's go in on that.
So again, my first relationship with him, what attracted me to him was that he was just so humble. I love that quality. And the second relationship that I was in, he was walking with his chest out. He was up here. I was down here. And, basically, superiority is, this inflated sense of ego, self-importance. They are better than you. They are smarter than you. and that also ties into the belittlement, so being superior, they're better that, again, when you have a conversation with them, um he was constantly fact checking me, like, well, what do you mean
Wow.
by that? Is that true? No, that's not what you meant. This is what you meant to say. Or you're not saying that properly. Say it properly. He would correct me all of the
Oh,
time,
wow.
which is
Wow.
belittlement.
Yeah, yeah,
What belittle is belittle. They're kind
yeah.
of, squashing you down, and
Yeah, yeah, I can relate that.
it, and it gets to a point where you feel like, am I stupid? Is he right?
Start to doubt yourself, don't you? Yeah.
Oh my God, you kind, and we can talk about this. You kind of gaslight yourself in a way. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
your own reality is being skewed because they
Yeah.
live in their own twisted reality.
It's
So then,
distorted. Yeah.
it's like I would come home some nights and I'm like, I would feel so insecure about even having a conversation with anybody else because do I sound stupid? Am I saying things properly? So it
Mhm.
really ate into my self-esteem.
Yeah.
And it made me, I was just not depressed, but I was constantly sad all the time.
Yeah. And I think that's when it can get really dangerous, and one needs to be aware to, you know, have built back that self-esteem. Because if you find that you're getting in situations where, just your spirit is just down, or, or if, let's even presume you're a really positive person and the individual's just always just just negative energy in general, and you're finding you're the one always having to uplift them, I think that's another sign to watch out for, which goes in with the belittling and making you feel low down about yourself, low
Ooh,
self-esteem. So
also it ties in with the entitlement.
yeah,
you know
yeah, yeah,
they feel so more deserving of things than other people, so this is what they're feeling: I deserve this, even if their boundaries, they have boundaries. So my exes had a few ex-girlfriends in his orbit. One he was going to marry, and he's going to retire near her in Italy. This is what I had to deal with. And another one who I don't think he ever got over. She actually is back in England, and he went to go visit her on vacation. And what he told me was, yes, I have these people in my life. If you don't like it, you know where the door is.
wow.
Now, if I said, oh, I have these ex-boyfriends around, but we're just friends. But I'm going to go, retire near one, and I am going to go vacationing, seeing the other one. How would you feel? You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, this is like when, and it's so easy to be like, oh, but I love them, they won't do anything. But you need to set those boundaries for yourself before you know it.
yeah,
They're just violating it. And that's, you saw my reaction, because I could relate with that like very well. And knowledge is power. Most people wouldn't know this. Be like, oh, fine, I trust them. No, have boundaries. Like, that's disrespectful. Do you know what I mean? So having those boundaries as well, and especially what you said about entitlement, like, so relatable, even from some of my friends' experiences where I've been advising them as well. Just be in situations where they just be like, their narcissist in quotes would just be like, I need support, I need support, I don't care, I need support, I need support. I'm like, dude, I mean, you're not going to sacrifice yourself for the person. Like,
right,
Jesus has
right.
already done that if they're a Christian or whatever. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's a very strong sign to watch out for there, guys. Entitlement is something to really be aware about and be sensitive to.
Yeah.
And you touched on the point of gaslighting. That's actually one of the themes I wanted us to also touch on as well. I mean, what is gaslighting and exactly, and how can, you know, people protect themselves and be aware of that in the context of that? Yeah.
So I feel that, and you know, in retrospect, it's like, so basically it's a type of manipulation where they kind of dismiss the situation, or they're dismissing what they're actually just turning around the whole situation just to make you feel crazy, you know. And it's and the thing is that all of these things that we're touching on, it doesn't happen every day. It's so
Yeah.
subtle, but it happens. And that's where you're like, he was good one day, or she was good one day, but then the next day I'm so confused. So in my experience, yeah, he gaslighted me, but I think I gaslighted myself more than he gaslighted me. And I think I don't know if this is under the umbrella of gaslighting, but he ignored me. I mean, he just basically ignored me.
The silent treatment.
And silent treatment, that's manipulation.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Or he just thought I was boring. So why even, you know, I wasn't good enough for him. I wasn't exciting him. So why even get in touch with me throughout the day?
They get bored easily. Yeah. Yeah. I think that was even the point I touched on a cheating episode. Yeah. So yeah, that's right on cue. Right on point.
And you know what? Thinking about it, he bored me. I had nothing to say to this man. I mean, what was I going to say to a man who wasn't there for me? Who I couldn't even have, you know, when I asked him how was his day, he would look at me like a deer in headlights. He was like, I think that's such a boring question. And I'm like,
are you serious?
I feel
this person is just not connecting with you at all. Like,
he just didn't care. But you know, he just didn't care. But the thing is that with the, you know, the gaslighting, you know, it makes the survivors or the victims question their own reality. You know, I didn't say that, or you know, I'll bring up a situation where, you know, I'm like, you know, that kind of made me feel a little sad, or, well, you know, you're too sensitive. Or
that is a very popular phrase. Yeah.
Yeah.
So watch out, guys. Watch out.
Also, you know, there was a time where we got into a little tiff, and he hung up on me. And the next day, I told, let's talk about this, because I was a little hurt by, you know, your reaction. And he actually looked at me, he smirked, and he was like, I'm sorry. I mean, that's basic like belittlement, or but it's also kind of gaslighty in a way. Or, you know, this man never told me he loved me, only 3 times when we had sex within 4 years. So, you know, well, the first relationship, you know, with the love bombing, he told me he loved me within 3 weeks, and I was like the apple of his eye. So this second relationship,
3 weeks. Wow.
3 weeks. And I was like, what the hell's going on? You know what I'm saying? 3 weeks, you don't even know me. But you know, within the second relationship, he never showed emotions, or he never told me he loved me. But one night he got a little tipsy, and he told me he loved me. And the next day we would talk. I was like, oh, it was such a great night last night. And he said, he looked at me dead straight in the eye, and he goes, well, I love everyone when I'm drunk.
Well, this is the thing. I was just about to say, like, I don't subscribe to that. Like, if a lady's telling me she loves me when there's drinks in the equation, like, I rather have my ear get bitten off and not saying it back. I'm talking from experience there. Like, that's a real life story. So yeah, I mean, that's something to watch out for. I mean, we could even class that as love bombing. You know, like telling you in the first 3 weeks, like, what? You hardly even know the person. And like, I mean, how did that initially make you feel? Did you feel like
oh my
time you succumb to it, or?
Well, you know, I've been married, I've been in love, I know what love is. And but you know, I always took my time in relationships. I never went quick. I need to get to know the person or whatever. And I think he was the first guy who actually I started dating after like being single for like 5 years.
Oh, wow.
So, in the beginning, he was just like so loving and so caring, and he was right there. I mean, the morning text, hello, beautiful, blah, blah, blah. Then I love you. And I was like, 3 weeks. And I'm like, maybe I love you too. And, so it's like, I was confused then, but I was like, maybe I was so craving for that connection since it was like years.
True. That's very true.
You
Yeah.
know?
So all these
And then,
factors can play a part in it as well.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's like crash and burn. It happened so quick. And then in my experience, I would say within 6 weeks of the relationship, that's when he started to pull back. And I was like,
Yeah.
you loved me a month ago. What's going on now? You know what I'm saying? So the love bombing can really, really destroy people. It really, really can destroy people. And let me tell you something. I have cried so many tears over this man, over the abuse, over the belittlement, over him making me feel stupid. But what upsets me the most is him manipulating the situation to make me think that he was sincere about his love, especially when someone who, hasn't been loved in, quite some time, he took advantage of it, took advantage of it. And that upsets me more than anything else.
And I think that's one of the things that can open up people to be so vulnerable. And one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about this, this happens to men and women. I mean, I'll be doing an episode for men specifically as well, but I believe even some men might not be so open about it. Men have egos and everything, but men have emotions too. They do cry. So, that kind of pain that people go through, they can even go as far as depression. That's why we're doing all this at the end of the day. That's, trying to like make people aware of this, that there is hope for them, that, they can be aware of these signs to, get past this and not succumb to such abuses and have, critical boundaries that, that are not to be overstepped. So yeah, really, I'm glad you made that point about the tears, because people do go through pain with all this. The people suffering in silence, men and women. So, it's very important. And
can I also say something?
Yeah, sure.
So I am a very religious woman. I live by my religion.
Sure. And that helps as well.
Yes. And I rely on my God. But you know what? Last year, we broke up during COVID. So I was dealing with the COVID stuff. I mean, how do you wrap your head around that? Now, I didn't know I was in a trauma bond. And that's when I started therapy. And I was crying. I mean, every day, every night, I couldn't catch my breath. I mean, and this was ongoing for quite some time. And, I always believe that things happen for a reason. And I trust my God. I do.
Faith, yeah.
But there was one morning after, I would say about 3 months of crying like this, that I woke up in the morning crying. Wow. For my God, I can't do this anymore. And I felt, this was the first time in my life that I felt despair. Never in my almost 50 years in this life, and I've been through quite some stuff, I've never felt despair. And that morning I woke up, because that's a hopelessness feeling, is a very scary feeling.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I woke and I went to my bathroom and I looked in my mirror. I didn't even recognize myself. My eyes were swollen. I looked terrible. I lost like 10 pounds.
Your spirit. It's just, yeah.
My spirit was broken. And you know what? I looked at myself in the mirror and I got angry. And that was the point where I turned everything around. I said, wow. I'm not going to let this person make me feel hopeless. No.
Yeah,
And that's when I started to recover.
that's brilliant. It brings me so much joy to hear that. And it's all about, because at the end of the day, it's all about you as a person making that critical decision.
Absolutely.
No one else can make it for you. Not even God can make it for you. It has to be your own will,
Exactly.
you know, to actually decide that you want to come out of it. That, I would say that's probably the first critical step, having the faith to know that there's light at the end of the tunnel. And then from there, just going through it, just making that decision that no more, no matter what situations you're in, whether it's been intimate relationships or just with friends or co-workers, just setting appropriate boundaries once you're aware of the signs. So yeah, I believe that's really crucial. I think there's one final point for us. Don't know if we've covered it yet. It was on the perfection. Yeah, it was the perfection, and you know, them not apologizing, having this superiority, so to speak. Yeah, no, if we have enough to touch on that.
You know, again, that ties in with being superior, and you know, with my ex, I mean, he had a few other things going on. I don't know if it was tied to being an abusive person or a narcissist, but you know, he had massive OCD. Everything had to be perfect. His partner had to be perfect.
Yeah.
And you know, it's a form of control. Without this perfection, without this control, they're going to spiral.
All about control. Yeah.
So if you're not living up to their standards, you know, they're going to look down on you, you know, and that comes in where, you know, correcting my language all the time. And actually he would correct his 78-year-old mother. No, that's not how you say it. I'm like, she's 78 years old. Leave her alone. Leave her alone. Come on. You know, my God. So the thing is that, and, you know, all of these behaviors that we're talking about, you know, them being so critical of us, them, you know, putting us down all the time, and you know, poo-pooing us, and the lack of empathy, this is what they feel within themselves. They're so critical of themselves. They do not like themselves. So so in order for them not to feel that pain, what do? They project it onto you. So they need to be here, and you know, you're here and you're not, and it's such unrealistic, you know, and you're in those relationships and you try to be as perfect for them because you just want, you don't want breadcrumbs, you want that love, you know, so you're trying, but it's so unrealistic that you'll never meet it. Then you feel defeated, and then they just keep pushing you down, and it's
definitely
cycle.
It's a cycle. And to prove that point, I don't want to lose that thought, to prove that point of what you just said about they're projecting it onto you. I mean, at the time, I wouldn't have understood it, but for someone to go as far as saying that, the way they feel, how bad they're feeling, they want you to feel that bad. It took me so long to like just grasp my head around that. Like, why would you want to do that? Like, that surely it's not love. Like, why would you want to and openly admit and say that? How bad I'm feeling, I want you to feel that bad. That's just selfish, like, you know? And, you know, you're trying to bring them up, and at the same time, they're trying to bring you down. So it's just a constant cycle. And guys, if you're going through this, I want us to be aware of that. That is a really prominent sign to watch out for, like you just said. So I'm really glad you made that point as well, because yeah, that's quite relatable. Yeah, definitely. Really crucial.
And you know, I just also want to say that, again, I am such a rational person. And for me to think that I'm going crazy, if you're in a position where, you know, you're with your partner and, you know, then you leave them and you go back to your home, or if you're living with them and you can't, you know, get away from them, but, you know, you're in another room and you're feeling so confused, and you're putting so much more into this relationship, and you're trying to make it work and they're not. That's you got to look at that and say, you know what, I love this man so much, but I love myself more. What am I going to do to make myself feel better? You know what I'm saying?
Don't love someone else if you don't love yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, no, definitely. That's right on point. Yeah, I'm really glad you mentioned that, I'm glad you mentioned that. I don't know if this was a point you've experienced or something, but like with the breaking up, did you find that there was a lash out or anything like that? Was there any experience like that for you?
No, the last breakup, he was just like, playing the victim. Oh, I'm not good in relationships. Oh, I'm not. I'm like, and I'm sitting there. I'm like, you think? This is what's in my head.
Oh no.
And so he was just playing just the victim card.
Yeah.
Oh no, and then I'm sad over here. He didn't lash out. I mean, he did lash out, just during the relationship when I disagreed with him. That was just the rage. But breaking up, no. I mean, he was just, yeah, I'm pretty sure he felt bad.
Mm.
But you know, no, it was just, I was just like, I'm done. I'm
Yeah.
done.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I am done. And he walked away. And of course, I got the little Hoover, and then I just put a squash on that. And I was like, yeah, no, that's not, no, no, that's not happening, But no, I didn't get the rage. I mean,
Yeah. And
in a
I think
way, I wish I did get the rage, because that would have kind of emphasized, like, thank good, you know where the door is. You can leave. You know what I'm saying?
well, I mean, at the same time, you might not know about it, but I think, with the breakups, I think that's a way for them to like also get a story out to their flying monkeys.
And
People,
Blur's,
they're gonna, gaslight, this is the situation. I was one in control. I did the dumping, So I think that's another thing that you might not be aware about. Obviously, if you don't have ties with the flying monkeys. So,
yeah, I am friends with some of them, but
yeah.
knowing him, he's the, he plays the victim a lot. So I can just say, we just weren't compatible. And no, his friends know my Instagram page, and yeah, no, they know my story now. So there you go.
Okay. So, I mean, on the final point, just to conclude, what would you advise people, as a survival and emotional abuse advocate, what advice would you give people going forward to go about starting their healing process with this knowledge?
So I would say that, again, the trauma bond is it can really keep you romanticizing the relationship.
Yes,
And
definitely.
I
Yeah.
did that for quite some time. Oh, but he's a nice guy. And what helped me is that I wrote out I call it an abuse list, with everything that he did
That's
to
quite
me and
handy, yeah.
everything that he said to me. And while I was in recovery, what I also did, because I was stuck in such a trauma bond, I would put post-it notes on my walls. The abuse was real. And I kept looking at that. And, I, after a while, of course, I took it down, but it just brought me back to the reality of the relationship. So again, it takes a while for you to get out of the trauma bond, but if you're still stuck in there, just for me, I had to hang in there. I had to advocate for myself, and not for a feeling that wasn't even a relationship that wasn't even real. It wasn't a real relationship. So it's like, you kind of have to look at the reality and accept that this is the relationship that you were in.
You were in, yeah.
Take ownership of it. And I do feel that, let me tell you something, a lot of nights crying, a lot of, just rocking back and forth. And I lost almost 15 pounds throughout this whole thing. However, I am so therapy. I'm taking that stuff home. Therapy. You need someone who is experienced in trauma, because you've been traumatized, and trauma is real. So once you accept that you were in that space, and self-talk, and if you have a great support system, just keep talking, keep getting it out. And after a while,
that's important. Yeah.
For me personally, after a while, it's like, I don't want to talk about this anymore.
Yeah.
I have things to do with my life.
Good. It's good. It's good when you get to that point. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Just hang tough, tough. And I always say at the end of my Instagram page, you are loved and you are worth it. because when you're in these relationships, you don't feel loved. You don't feel worth it. You are not seen and you are not heard. So I always make a point of saying you are loved and you are worth it.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Jeanine. And I think what I'll do, I'll put a link to your Instagram page as well if people want to also
Wonderful.
that. But like you said, I think a key part to getting the closure is accepting, because you're not going to get closure from the narcissist. Let's just put that out there. Is accepting that you were in this relationship, that this type of relationship, like you said, that is the first stage of beginning your recovery period, and just means there's light at the end of the tunnel. Have a great support system everywhere, like, you know, your page and everywhere. You know, we're in the information age now, so there's a lot of support out there online. But yeah, thank you so much, Jeanine. That was absolutely fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show, and I hope maybe perhaps in future we can welcome you as well for other topics on the show too.
And there's a lot of them, so absolutely.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day.
Hi guys, so hope we really enjoyed that episode with Jeanine, going into detail with some of her experiences. Hope we brought a lot of insight to people that might be going through something similar. You know, these kinds of abuses are real, whether they're in intimate relationships or in the context of maybe even families, you know, which could be more complicated because they're your family at the end of the day, or even co-workers. Drop your comments down below. If there's any questions or anything you have, do like, comment, and subscribe. And please share with other people that you might think might benefit from such topics, because you never know. A lot of people suffering in silence. So yeah, as I said, stay tuned for future episodes. I'll be having more episodes coming on, and soon I'll also be doing some video reviews as well soon on that, some more in regards to that. So thank you so much, and peace out.